Long after we were married, my husband and I have a story that changed my life before and after. I am 25 years old and my name is Amanda. I am an average girl who is into sports. My husband is 8 years older than me, and I love that age difference. His name is Ethan. We met at a regular park, quickly started dating, and got married. We were happy and looking forward to starting our life together. When I moved into my husband's house, I left behind my parents' home, a place filled with memories and familiarity. My sisters weren't on the best terms with me, so the decision to leave was hasty and bittersweet. I felt both excitement and fear, hoping that this would be the beginning of a new chapter. At first, everything seemed perfect, but then I discovered an unexpected complication. My husband's father was also living with us. This was something I hadn't considered, and it quickly became a source of tension. No matter what I did, I could never please my father-in-law. He constantly criticized me, predicting that I would soon divorce his son, accusing me of incompetence, and saying that my husband could not love someone like me. His harsh words were severely damaging my self-confidence. My father-in-law had been divorced for several years and was living with his son. There was an intimidating energy emanating from his commanding presence that made me feel unwelcome in my own home. Whenever I brought up his behavior to my husband, Ethan brushed it off, insisting that his father wouldn't behave that way. His rejection made me feel isolated and unsupported, and I couldn't help but hope for a resolution to this intolerable situation. Unfortunately, my father-in-law's behavior only worsened over time. Compounding the problem was the fact that Ethan was deeply attached to the house. Having spent his entire childhood in it, he was emotionally attached to it in such a way that leaving became an unthinkable option. I realized I had no choice but to adjust, even though it required a tremendous emotional and physical effort on my part. Every day was like an uphill battle, as I dealt with my father-in-law's constant nagging and unsolicited remarks. One day, feeling particularly exhausted, I shared my frustration with my coworkers. They were older women, closer to my husband's age, and I hoped they could give me some advice. As I told my story, they listened attentively, nodding in understanding. When I finished, they made an out-of-the-box suggestion that stunned me. Perhaps my father-in-law behaves this way because he craves female attention. This idea was so unexpected and shocking that I didn't know how to respond to it. Their words did not go out of my head, and I was torn between two options: to leave my husband or to follow their unexpected advice. After much inner torment, I decided to try, albeit reluctantly, to take their suggestion. My father-in-law's favorite room was the library, a cozy space filled with books and a large desk where he spent most of his time. He often asked me to help him with small tasks, and I saw an opportunity. On one of the rare weekends, I volunteered to help him clean the library. While dusting the top shelves, I accidentally knocked over a stack of books on the floor below. I hurried down the stairs to pick them up, but not before my father-in-law took advantage of the moment to launch into one of his harsh lectures on my supposed incompetence. As always, his words hurt, and I desperately wanted to defend myself, but he didn't give me that opportunity. Overwhelmed with frustration and a desire for change, I acted impulsively. I walked over to him and hugged him tightly. He froze, clearly caught off guard by the unexpected gesture. For a few moments we stood in silence, neither of us knowing what to say. Then he slowly hugged me back. What happened next was amazing. The tension between us seemed to disappear at that moment. After that, we went back to our business at the library as if nothing had happened, but something had undoubtedly changed. In the days that followed, I noticed a marked change in his behavior. He became more patient, kinder, and much less critical. It seemed as if a heavy weight had been lifted from our communication. Encouraged by this progress, I began to look for small ways to improve our relationship. I asked him about his favorite books and sometimes joined him at the library to discuss them. He began sharing stories about his life, and I found myself understanding him in a way I never had before. The man who seemed impossible to please was gradually becoming someone I could coexist with. Reflecting on the advice I received from my coworkers, I couldn't help but marvel at their unconventional genius. Although the situation was far from ideal and still posed challenges, I couldn't deny the positive changes in our family dynamics. For the first time, I felt hope that our life together could become more harmonious. It was no longer just a matter of surviving under one roof, but finding a way to thrive despite the challenges. Each small step forward made the effort worthwhile, and I began to believe that things could get even better for all of us.